The key of a good relationship is communication, and communication is the key to connection. Whether you want to have more sex or intimacy, whether you want to get that spark back in your marriage, or whether you feel like you're just not being heard or listened to, respected or appreciated as a man in your relationship, then there are probably 5 love languages that you are either not aware of or you might be aware of them, but you're not implementing them. These will change the game for your relationship, not just with your partner, but with everyone around you. So I'm going to teach you in this podcast episode exactly what these love languages are, how you can master them, and how you can find out the way to implement them in your relationship. So strap on in. I hope you get a ton of value from this one. And as always, make sure you listen to the end. Oh man, good old jokes before we start a podcast. Man, I was talking to Rosie the other day, and do you know what she said to me, my wife? She said,
What's that?
"I'm proud of you, babe."
Ooh.
And my body just like melted. It was like a mini orgasm. Sorry for the visuals, but it was great. And I think the same day she called me a weapon, and I was like, "Ooh,
Oh, that's cool.
right in the soul, right in the soul." And
Yeah.
of course, what I'm talking about is one of the love languages, words of affirmation. From the intro that I just spieled on, we're going to be talking about how to communicate better in your relationships. This is going to be a series of videos we're going to do on relationships. And in this specific part of the series, we are going to reference the 5 love languages. Do you remember who wrote the book, Sam? Is it Gary Chapman?
Gary Chapman. Yeah.
Behind me. As a matter of fact, let me pull it up and you can let them know what the 5 love languages are while I run away.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got words of affirmation, we've got gifts, we've got physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. Is that 5? That was
I
5.
think so. I didn't
Yeah.
hear what you said. I was finding the book. So this is the book right here by Gary Chapman. And I'll be honest with you, as a business owner, scaling my company, growing the team, and basically grinding, I don't make much time to read. I really don't make much time to read. Like, when was the last time you read, Sam? Do you read at all? Do you read much?
Not consistently. Like I actually probably the last time I read was on the plane on the way home from your place back in October. So
Wow.
not
Okay. So
consistently. I listen,
yeah,
but I don't often read.
yeah.
Sit and read.
Yeah. I'd make the assumption that most people listening to this probably prefer listening to reading, right? And that's why we're doing this video. Because, yeah, you could go read the book and it might take you like a day, or you could just listen to this 30-40 minute podcast, right?
Yeah.
So the 5 love languages, as Sam mentioned, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, gifts, and physical touch. They're all different languages that we speak in our relationship. So as you probably know by now, if you listen to the Empowered Man podcast, the quality of your relationships has a massive impact on the quality of your life. It affects your business, it affects your wealth, it affects your fatherhood, it affects your happiness and fulfillment. In the last month of Empowered Man, we've brought on 25 new clients. Of those 25, about 21 were business owners. And they all had the same story. I'm making money, I'm successful, but I'm stressed out, I have no time, and I cannot communicate with my wife.
Mhm.
And there's 2 types of communication. The 2 types of communication in a relationship that can go south are when you argue or when you do the silent treatment. And they both have very, very different effects, but they both lead to the same outcome, which is a breakdown of a relationship and a disconnection in communication.
Mhm.
When you give someone the silent treatment, you're sweeping things under the rug and bottling it up. And when you argue, you're trying to be heard without listening. They're trying to be heard without listening, and there is no outcome. So
Yeah.
in reality, the only way to communicate is to have a discourse between each other in a calm, patient way. But it's not just through words. You can communicate in way more ways than just words. There are actually 5, and we teach them in this podcast, right? So the first one, words of affirmation. Yes, words of affirmation. Actually, before we do that, it's probably important to note, have you ever felt like you're giving someone love? Like you're doing everything you can to make them feel loved,
Yeah.
and they just spit in your face?
Mm.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah,
Walk
absolutely.
me through a time. Walk me through a time, brother.
It's funny. And as we talk through love languages, I'll be able to give more context to this. But
Yeah.
I remember when my ex-wife and I first got together, I would constantly send her flowers to her office.
Mhm.
And, the first time it was like, thank you so much. Like, wow, I can't believe you did that. And then over time, it was just like, oh, okay. I even remember one time, like, don't get it from that florist again.
Mhm.
Save the money. Like, don't worry about buying me flowers. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that hurts. And so I started with the cards and the heartfelt cards and the words and the texts,
Hmm.
and it just seemed to fall flat.
Mm.
And you're just like, I'm pouring my heart and soul out here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing as much as I can. What more do you want from me, woman? Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's this frustration. A big one. One of the biggest things that ruins a relationship for successful men is they work hard and that's how they give love. So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm making money, I'm providing, I'm looking after the kids. We got a house, you got your nice car, I bought you a bag. And then we think that's love. And our partner is like not giving us sex, not giving us words of affirmation, not meeting our needs. So then we get really resentful and frustrated at them because we're giving, 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 and they're just taking, taking, taking. But we don't realize, due to a lack of awareness, that they're not just taking, they're not speaking our language.
Yeah.
So we think that we're speaking their language. We're like, acts of service, I'll work for you. Gifts, I'll buy you stuff. And they're like, I just want to fucking spend some time with you, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, can we just spend some quality time where you're not on your phone or like stressed about work? So
Mm.
you got to understand your partner's love language. And as
Yeah.
you said, you get her the gifts, you write her the notes, and she's like, I don't feel loved. And you're like, are you fucking serious?
Mm.
So ultimately, like everything we teach at the Empowered Man, it is a lack of awareness, correct?
Mm.
So let's dive into each of these. You can speak your partner's love language and they'll hear it. But if you speak a language they don't understand, they're not going to hear it. Imagine if I start speaking Japanese right now, Sam.
Mm.
Konnichiwa. Do you know what that means?
It's like hello, isn't it?
Oh, fuck. Well, you were on my Japanese. I thought you might know it. Arigato. That's like thank you, right? So words of affirmation is one that I really resonate with. Okay.
Mm.
You don't have to buy me a thing. I don't buy myself anything. I'm happy to just work hard, make money, provide, and spend the weekend with my family.
Yeah.
That's my dream life. It could be better. I could have a Hublot on my wrist. I could have a nicer house. Doesn't matter. But if you tell me that you're proud of me and you mean it sincerely, it gets me right up in the feels.
Yeah.
I find that as a coach and as a mentor to so many men, I am constantly trying to find out how other people are doing.
Mm.
How are you? How's your day going? Even to random people on the street, I'm like, how are you? Like, you know, I love your shirt. I'm constantly giving, giving, giving because that's my love language. And
Yeah.
people think it's weird. It's like, why are you telling a random person you like their shirt? Because it's a great shirt. Why
Yeah.
would you not tell someone who has a great shirt he has a great shirt?
That's it.
So words of affirmation is when somebody tells you through their language, the words they use, their vocal language, that they're proud of you, they appreciate you. And I find for a lot of successful men, they're lacking that.
Mm.
They're lacking the respect and the appreciation that they want from their partner. They don't need to be like coddled, but just to know like you're doing the right thing, you know? It's almost always the opposite, isn't it, in relationships?
Mm.
It's like instead of telling you that they're proud of you or they love you, what most wives do is they point out the things you're not doing well.
Yeah.
Again, it's not their fault. They don't realize they're doing this, but they go, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. You walk through the door, the house is a mess, and then they yell at you for something the kids have done. It's like, are you fucking serious? So there's a big, big gap. Rosie, my wife, and I, we had a chat. Oh God, it would have been 3 weeks ago. And she was really upset because every time she told me what her emotions were, I would try and fix them through words of affirmation. I'm like, well, you don't need to be stressed. What are you grateful for? And she's like, fuck you. So she started bottling these emotions up. I teach this stuff. She started bottling them up.
Yeah.
We had a massive argument because she wasn't telling me how she feels every day. How are you? Okay. How are you? I'm fine. We had a massive argument. Turns out she felt I was judging her when she expressed herself, and she started crying. And once she starts crying, you can't win, right? I'm done. The argument's over, as you know. And she goes, I just wish I could talk to my partner and feel safe. And I'm
Wow.
like, fuck. And I instantly went, I'm so sorry. The words of affirmation. I'm so sorry that you feel that way. That's horrible. I'm your husband. And she said that. She's like, you're my husband. You're the one person I should be able to confide in. And I was like, okay, I'm committed to listening without trying to fix, which is really hard for me.
Mm.
But I said to her, can you commit to actually seeming like you care? And she's got offended. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, it feels like you don't care. Like you asked me the other day how I'm doing. I started talking. About 2 minutes in, you started talking about your stuff. So now I'm like, cool, my wife doesn't care. And I don't talk to you or anyone else about what I'm going through. It's really ironic. Since we had that conversation, and this is how you get people to meet your love language, you've got to communicate it. Rosie wanted to be heard. She wanted to be listened to. Since then, she said, I'm proud of you. Every day she asks me how my day was. She listens. But we're 7 years into the relationship, and this is just happening.
Mm.
right? So if you are a man listening to this and you like to be told things, you feel loved when you're told by your partner or your loved ones, have you communicated that with them?
Mm.
Have you told them? Sam, I'll let you jump in because I've been ranting for a little bit. Like words of affirmation. Um, how do we know if our partner has words of affirmation? How do we know if we have words of affirmation?
Well, I think it's that natural instinct of, when, I know people like I'm a words person. I'm a words of affirmation person. I will sit and write a coaching session and I will
Mm-hmm.
spend so much longer than I probably need to because every word for me is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I am a words of affirmation person. And as a result, I want to affirm others. Now,
Yeah,
I've
you
got
want to
people in
give.
my life that they're like, "Oh, don't compliment me. Don't compliment me. I don't like it." And I'm like, "How can you not like that?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. But they're geared in another way. They feel love in another way. And this words of affirmation, like it's really in the title. Like it's being affirmed
Mm-hmm.
through words, being affirmed in your humanity, being affirmed in what you do, being affirmed in
Mm-hmm.
who you are.
Yeah.
And for some people, even listening and watching this right now, as you hear that, you might go, oh, that's uncomfortable. I don't like that. But for some others, you're like, oh, how good is it when, you're brought into the manager's office or whatever, and you're affirmed and you're told that you're doing a great job, or your partner says, hey, thank you for being there for me, or thank you for doing this for me. And the words, they're just,
Mm.
it
Yep.
just, yeah, it's amazing.
It's just language. I just looked up the definition. It's the action or process of affirming something. So he nodded in affirmation. It's sort of like an acknowledgement, right? So
Mm,
it's like you're acknowledging someone. You just told me this thing, and people listening, they're like, that makes sense. So they're affirming that they're affirming what you just said. But the second definition is emotional support or encouragement. The
mm,
lack of one or both parents' affirmation leaves some children emotionally crippled.
yeah.
Wow, right? So, words of affirmation is emotional support or encouragement through language. And it's
Mm,
very easy to know if this is one of yours because you simply just ask yourself, do I feel loved when my partner gives me that? And when I give that to my partner, does she respond? With Rosie, no. I
yeah.
can tell her I'm proud of her. And because she has her own insecurities, which a lot of people do, she's like in out there, in out one eye, out the other.
Yeah.
Do you know what's really ironic about this one, though? I can tell my wife all the things I love about her. She doesn't hear it. If I give her a critique, she hears it deeply, which is it's quite
Yeah.
strange though, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel love from it, but I can feel the hate. It's quite interesting. So that's the first love language. If
Mm,
you resonate with that one, tick it off, write it down. We'll give you a little exercise at the end of this. The second one, in no particular order, quality time.
mm,
Quality time, right? Most relationships break down for one reason. It's because you stop giving them the time they deserve. At the beginning of the relationship, there's quality time. You talk to each other, you listen to each other, you will sacrifice other things, other areas of your life to be around each other. But
mm,
then what ends up happening? You have kids, you buy the house, you grow the business or career. So naturally, it's not your fault. Time goes into those areas. You got to provide, you got to make money, which is great. But then when we do come home to our loved ones, we're stressed, triggered, tired, low on energy, frustrated, angry. So we don't just come back and spend quantity time with them. We don't spend an hour with them in the evening. We spend low quality time with them in the evening. And that's where we blow up at something stupid or we project our shit onto them.
mm.
Ultimately, if you want to have a great relationship, you got to have two types of time: quality time and quantity time. Quantity is the amount of time,
Yeah.
quality time is the depth of that time.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing this with my wife and with my daughter. One of
Mm,
my targets for this quarter, it's our biggest growth in business we've ever had. I've had to do a lot of work. I'm pretty tired at times. But one of my commitments this quarter is be hyper present with my family.
yeah.
And sometimes I fuck it up. Sometimes I'm on my phone scrolling. But when I'm at the park with Talia and Rosie, I'm at the park with Talia and Rosie.
Yeah.
And this is hard for me. I'm practicing it because my brain, like most business owners, is constantly on. It's like before this call, I'm thinking about two of our clients who haven't messaged us and all this random stuff, marketing. I'm trying to consciously, when I'm talking to Rosie, not just words of affirmation, but look her in the eyes and listen to her.
Mhm.
One thing I've realized I do as well is I cut my wife off a lot. She's pulled me up on it. she'll be talking and I'll just like cut in, and then she'll be like, I forgot what I was going to say now. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I did it again. Pattern of mine, right?
Mm,
So quantity time and quality time, a lot of men struggle with this because they're so busy.
mm.
What was the experience like for you? And how do we remedy that? Because I get it. Like they have businesses, they are busy. So how do we fix that? How do we remedy
Yeah.
quantity versus quality?
I'm practicing this at the moment. Quality time's not one of my natural love languages, but it's my son's primary love language. You see that all over. And I, for a long time, admittedly and ashamedly, felt that being in the same room was enough.
Yeah.
But over this last year in particular, it's just to the point, like I have him 3 nights a week and nothing else matters. When he arrives, work's done, housework's done, everything's done. Nothing else matters. He's got my full attention. And like it's practicing the art of presence. Wherever you are, be there. He wants to engage. He wants to spend that time. He wants to sit on my lap. He wants to build Lego together and play cars together. And, sometimes, yes, he'll want to do that by himself, but he's like, Daddy, can you come and do this with me? Can you come and do this? And it's so easy for us to get caught up in the mechanics of life that we're like, oh, I'll just sit in the same room. I'll just sit over here. We're in the same room. It's fine. Like you're fine. But we actually rob that person of feeling loved in a sense.
Yes.
And so I'm like you, I'm practicing that and seeing how he responds to that is just incredible. Yeah.
And that's how you turn that practice into permanence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, legend, if you're getting value from this podcast, then you're going to love our Empowered Man 7-Day Challenge. Inside, we've taken some of the best content our clients invest thousands of dollars for to change their lives, and we've given it to you in the course of 7 days. This challenge is worth over $3,000, and you can get it for $37, 97% off. Inside, we'll teach you how to fix your marriage and relationships and reconnect with your partner, your kids, your wife. We will teach you how to take back your time, how to take back your power, get into powerful routines, and how to take control of your life, take control of your mind, take control of your business, take control of your health, take control of your wealth. Sounds too good to be true, but there's a complete money back guarantee. So if you're enjoying this podcast, go to elitebusinessman.com/challenge. That's elitebusinessman.com/challenge. It's going to be in the call notes as well, and you'll be able to register for this challenge that will completely change your life. You said something really powerful. I don't know what it was. Practicing presence. Is that what you said?
Practicing the art of presence. Yeah.
The art of presence. I love that. I've never heard that before. We're definitely going to implement that. So practicing the art of presence. And when you see the impact it has on someone you love, you'll really easily be able to see if they feel it.
Yeah.
That beauty of their smile. You know, when Talia, my daughter, goes, hi, and she's 16 months old, she goes, this morning she was like, hi. She turned around and smiled at me because I come downstairs for 5 minutes and I hug her. I was like, I love you so much. Yeah. And just that feeling of joy, which is at times hard to feel because you're so busy, if you can practice the art of that presence, it's going to create permanence, right? Yes. And when it becomes permanent, it becomes a part of you. I think a lot of men listening to this are going to hear what we're saying and go, shit, like I don't intentionally avoid this, but I don't spend much quality time with my family. And your family, your wife, your relationships are dictated upon how much time and presence you give them. Like touch wood, let's say you were to die tomorrow. Would you be happy with the amount of time you spend with them? Would you be happy with the quality of the time you spend with them? Now it's easy to say, well, yeah, but I'm working and I'm busy. I know you are. But it's not an or conversation. It's an and conversation. You can have both. And it's really about being hyper present in the moment. Keyword in the moment.
Yeah.
It can be for 5 minutes. Go downstairs during a work day if you work from home. Look into your daughter or your wife's eyes and ask them how they're doing and be hyper present. Now, this also requires a level of compartmentalization and being able to put things aside, which a lot of men struggle with. They really do struggle to switch off the brain. The best way to remember to do this is to just practice. Throughout the day, focus on your breath. Focus on what you feel. Focus on your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? What can you touch? What's underneath your butt while you're sitting? What are you standing on? Yeah. If you can practice those 5 senses, it's going to help you get into a place of presence.
Yeah.
which is really important. And a lot of wives want this as well. If you've got a hardworking husband, yeah, he makes money, great, but she just wants to spend some time with you, man.
Mm.
So again, you'll know if this is one that you enjoy. For a lot of men, it's a lot less. It's like, cool, we'll just bang, we'll just, hold hands every once in a while. I'll just work. It's not that simple for the ladies a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, you can ask. Yeah.
I jump in there?
Yeah, of course.
One of the things that I love, working with men around with quality time is it can be a source of frustration when you get home and all you want to do is just relax because you're like, I've worked so hard, I'm bringing in the income, I'm doing this and this and this. I should just want to get home and grab a beer and sit on the couch or whatever.
Yeah.
I like to practice this art of presence in the driveway, in the car. I used to do this when I used to work outside of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Drive in the driveway, take a breath and know there's going to be a time to relax tonight. But now I get to practice being present with my family. And it's not a source of frustration. It's a privilege to be able to show up, spend some time, ask how their day was, because they're going to want some of me tonight.
Yep.
I can give them that and I can be present knowing that my time will come.
Yep.
But I get to practice being present with them.
I love that. And a lot of men, that they are just too tired, too grumpy, and unaware of their shitty state of being when they get home.
Yeah.
Because we carry all that stress with us. So we're not even present at work. We're just like putting out fires and busy. So when we come home, we're still in the past of work.
Yeah.
Like we're not at home. We haven't switched off from work, so we can't switch on for family. If you want to have a great relationship, you got to do one thing. You got to be able to switch off from all the noise of work and business and stress and all the crap and the fires. And you got to walk through the door and switch on for your family.
Yeah.
Despite how, this is the kicker, despite how tired you are, despite the stress, you plaster on a smile. And if you plaster on a smile, you're going to feel better. And you walk through the door and the house is a mess or the wife's stressed and you go and be present. And you're present while you're doing the dishes and you're happy because what did you say? It's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege. It's not a problem. It's a privilege. That is so powerful. Like, dude, you're lucky you get to help around the house. You're lucky you get to have the kids climbing on you. So the fact that you have no energy, well, you get to choose to create energy because later in the day, you will have time to yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can be that guy, you become a leader.
Yeah.
I think most men struggle to lead. They're like, oh, victim, work, wife, she should have done this. No, she shouldn't have. She's struggling too, man. Let's help her out. Be present. Okay. So now we got quality time. We got words of affirmation. Third one, acts of service. Acts of service. Yes. So doing things, the art of doing. An act of service could be opening the door. Did you ever used to do that when you first started dating your ex-wife? Did you open the door for her? Yeah. Did you start doing it at the end or did it stop happening?
Oh, it probably stopped happening. Yeah.
Okay, well, at least you're honest. I thought you were going to sound perfect.
Yeah.
So I've realized at the beginning of the relationship, I used to do so much for my wife. And we have 108 clients right now, some of them most successful guys in Australia, New Zealand. And a lot of them at the beginning were like, they went all out. I'm going to take her out to dinner.
Yeah.
I'm going to surprise her with something. I'm going to open the door for her. I even had a guy I used to work with who used to stand every time his partner walked through the door. Like if he was sitting at a seat, he would stand, wait for her to sit, and then sit back down. That was extreme. Wow. Yeah, he was very extreme in many ways. Many ways. We won't get into that. But these acts of service are things you used to do. And the best way to know if your partner wants acts of service is when you do something thoughtful. Now, a lot of men struggle with this. We'll do another episode on date ideas because a lot of our clients have been asking about that. How do we date our partner again? But the best way to do this is do something for your partner. Take them on a date. Get them something thoughtful. It doesn't have to be a gift. It can be thoughtful. Do something thoughtful and see how they respond. So in my relationship with Rosie, an act of service is when I've had a long, stressful day. I've worked 10 hours. And then I go downstairs and the house is a mess. We've established that that's not because my wife's lazy. It's not because she's stupid. It's because she's overwhelmed and stressed. She knows she should clean. She knows she should help out around the house while I'm working. That's her role. That's what we've decided on. But we've established that it's not my role to now judge her. An act of service is to, without judging, without resenting, because we can help around the house while being a resentful prick, to just go and do the dishes. And she's like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, I want to do that. And then once I've done the dishes, she's, finishing up dinner or whatever, then I'll take Talia upstairs and wash her. And these are two extremely simple things that make my wife feel extremely connected to me. And we'll get into what connection means in terms of sexual energy and intimacy, which is extremely important for men. But those are two simple acts of service. They're just doing things. And an act of service is often as well doing things above and beyond, especially when you're tired.
Yes.
So if you want to connect with your partner and you want more intimacy and you want more love, go above and beyond when you don't feel like it. When the house is a mess and you've had a long day, help out. When the kids are going crazy and you're like, she should have it together, jump in and support her. And it's in those moments, again, as a man, this is what men do. Hard times create strong men. In those hard times, you do the extra mile and you do that act of service. And if you do that in your relationship, it's going to create so much sexual tension and energy because your partner's going to go, wow, this guy's stepping up. I'm going to step up too. Does that make sense? Yeah. Acts of service for you, like, what does it mean? And what have you seen with the guys we work with? What are the sort of big ones?
I think acts of service is it's in the name as well. It's serving someone. It's coming alongside someone so that they remember that they're not doing this solo. So in the past, making the partner a coffee, stacking the dishwasher, taking out the rubbish, the simple little things that would get such a response, and you're like, oh, it's just what we do. But it's like, now I feel like I'm not doing this on my own.
Yes.
And it can be in those simple day-to-day things. Go and do whatever, go and have a bath, go and do whatever you want to do. I'll bath Luca, or I'll put him to bed, or go and do that. It's that act of service. And like, I think, for a lot of the men that we work with and have worked with in the past, that acts of service has been, oh, well, I'm out bringing in the money. I'm out, earning. And that's a huge part of it. Absolutely. Yeah. But if your partner's dominant love language is acts of service, what would it look like for you to layer on top of what you're doing, because it is significant?
Yeah.
Stacking the dishwasher. There's one of our clients we work with that he started wiping the kitchen bench every night after dinner. And that's getting huge results because that acts of service, it's like, you're part of this household as well. And now you're taking some level of ownership. And, there's nothing sort of rocket science about it. It's simple, yet sometimes we're looking for the more complex answer. No, it can't be stacking the dishwasher or taking out the rubbish. But for some, that's huge. It's a reminder that I'm not doing this solo.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Your wife is having a challenging time. If she's got kids, the story for a lot of men is her life's easy. I'm out there fighting a war, making money and business. She has no idea what I'm going through. All she has to do is clean the house and make sure they don't die. Like, not that difficult. That's the story. But then because of that story, when you come home, it's like, oh, fuck, the house is a mess. And there's all this judgment and resentment, instead of like, okay, let's help her out. That's an act of service. It's going above and beyond. And the stories in our head are complete bullshit. As a man, whether you like it or not, it's our job to lead. And sometimes that means doing more. You can be a victim and say, oh, that's unfair. Life's not fucking fair. So as a man, you got to step up and lead. And when you do that, I've noticed this time and time again, unequivocally, when you lead, even when you shouldn't, that's when people follow, especially your partner.
Yeah.
And you got to think it out as well. Like, we think their job is easy a lot of the time, but it's those straws that break the camel's back. Like, just taking the dishes into the dishwasher, just taking the rubbish out. That might be the one thing that goes over the edge when the kids have been playing up, It's not that that's the problem. It's that one lighten of load. You're lightening the load.
Yeah.
Before we move on as well, I think really important, I don't want to spend too long on this, but a lot of the time as men, what happens is we do acts of service, but they're inconsistent, they're sporadic, and they're done with the expectation of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, I did the dishes and now you're pointing out all the shit I didn't do. Like, fuck you. And then we get into an argument.
Yeah.
But if you're doing this for the expectation of something in return, then you are going to fail because expectations set you up for disappointment. If you're going to do something for your partner to help out, do it consistently, do it without resentment or judgment, and do it with the expectation of nothing in return.
Oh, huge.
And also, like, when that happens, your partner might not notice it, and that's okay. And then they might get at you for all the things you had. Like, you might have done 5 things and they get at you for the 6 that you haven't done. We've all experienced this.
Yeah.
In those moments, we get triggered and angry, and the story we create is, fuck it, won't do anything then, which is such a childish way of thinking. That's how a child acts. We become children as men. We do, because we weren't taught how. That's what children do. Oh, I failed. I'm never going to succeed. No. Keep doing it, and also sit down with your partner and have a conversation. So look, obviously you must have had a stressful day, and I'm sorry that I didn't get this thing done. Did you notice these other 5? Oh, no, I didn't. No, screw you. It's like, okay, cool. No worries. But just highlight for them their lack of awareness. Do you think your partner, if they consciously were grateful for those 5, they'd be upset about the 6? No. Are they even upset about the 6th? No. There's other shit going on. They're not feeling loved. They're not feeling, do you know what I mean? Like, so as men, we latch onto these stories and we don't go deeper because we haven't been taught how to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right. Gifts. My least favorite love language.
My second favorite.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder where that comes from. Do you know where that comes from for you?
I'm not sure, but to be honest, for a lot of years, I felt really guilty about having that as one of my dominant love languages because it felt
interesting.
But I love to give as part of that. I love giving someone a gift and the thought that I get to put into that, and you know, I love that. But I felt very guilty at the thought of wanting that for a long time.
I wonder where that guilt came from. What, was it just that you don't deserve it, or that you're not enough, or what is it?
I think it was a lot of self-love, like validation, and yeah, just like, oh no, I shouldn't want that because I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough, and all my stuff. Yeah,
fair enough. It's probably quite dangerous, this gifts one, because it can be a double-edged sword. There's nothing wrong with receiving or giving gifts. It's an extremely powerful way to show or receive love. I think the problem with it is when, especially on the woman's side, especially with a wealthy or affluent or successful man, where the love is predicated only on gifts.
Yes.
So for the relationship to last, you've got to buy me the designer bags and the cars. And those relationships exist, by the way. I would honestly say that's a red flag you should immediately look at. If the other ones aren't like high up on the priority list, then that's a big red flag. It's quite interesting. Rosie, my wife, she loves gifts. Like, she loves thoughtful gifts. She also loves fucking up my surprises. Whenever I create a surprise, she figures it out. She's like, it's not my fault that I'm smart. I'm like, you're prying. I guess you didn't tell me. So it's quite interesting that she loves gifts, whereas I could not care less. Like, I could not care less if you bought me anything. If someone bought me a Rolex, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's extreme. Yeah. So yeah, I think gifts is one of the simplest love languages. Instead of trying to think of like, how do I give words of affirmation or receive them? How do I make more quality time? What acts of service are thoughtful so I can lighten the load? How can I practice presence? All those things require a bit of thought. Gifts are simple. It's just the gift of giving something physical. Yeah. So a really simple one is flowers. And this is one that a lot of men used to do that they no longer do. So everything we've talked about in this podcast is stuff that we've all done in the past. We've all done words of affirmation. We've all done quality time. We've all done acts of service. We've all done gifts. I would ask anyone listening, what did you used to get for your partner at the beginning of the relationship? Flowers is a huge one. I used to send, this is more of an act of service. I used to take photos of flowers while I walked every day and send them to Rosie. At least one a week. Now it's one a year, you know?
That's cool. I like that.
So yeah, it was I've got like 70 flowers. If you want some, send them. So gifts is giving stuff. Can be flowers, anything thoughtful. It's sort of an act of service as well. Christmas gifts, birthday gifts. In the past, I haven't got my wife birthday or Christmas gifts because I don't enjoy them. So I'm not a gift guy, so I don't give them. But then my wife's like, it's my birthday. I don't feel special. And this is another example of these love languages. Just because it's not a language for me doesn't mean it's not a language for my wife. And I now have to consciously do something that makes me feel strange and doesn't light me up because I want to give love. It's the same for Rosie. She doesn't naturally want to tell me she's proud of me. She's like, you should just know I'm proud of you. I'm like, how would I know? She's like, good point. So so she has to consciously now change her behavior. And I'm not asking her to change. I'm just asking her to give me more love. And now she's consciously saying, how was your day? And she seems to now be getting value out of it. So her languages are changing, right? Anything you want to add to gifts? Because it seems like a really simple one for me.
Yeah. I think the power of gifts is it's not about extravagance. It's not about dollar value. It's about thought. And You know, I remember, like, for me, it's not about spending X amount of money on me, but it's thought. So like coming home from the supermarket and you've thought of buying me my favorite brand of, you know, whatever,
Mhm.
that for me is just like, oh, it's
Yeah.
thought.
You're
And
thinking about me. I'm important.
that's right. I'm
Yeah.
massive. It's not
Yeah.
about this like, oh, how much, well, then what's the price tag on that? And then I'll decide if, you know, I'll accept it. It's like, no,
Mhm.
it's, you took the time out of your day to think of me, to consider me.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, how did you feel when I got you that sauna and ice bath and massage thing?
I was going to mention that. Like, that was just like, I mean, that was at a point where I was just like worn out and tired. And that, getting that was just like this, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved it, by
It,
the way. That was amazing. But
for anyone wondering, so Sam was burnt out a few weeks ago and he had a break, which a lot of the time we have breaks, they don't end up being breaks. But he was really burnt out. And he told me, he checks in with me every morning as one of my team members. We have a system. And if you're a business owner, you should have this. You should give a fuck about your team and care about them and know their sons' names. So as an example, like I do love Sam. He's one of my brothers, like, right? And he told me that his son's favorite favorite animal is an elephant, and it was his son's birthday. So I'm like, why don't we buy him an elephant costume? So I sent Sam some money and we bought him an elephant costume. Best thing ever. And then when Sam told me he was burnt out, I was doing my evening reflection, which we teach in the program. And I'm like, why don't I buy Sam a massage and an ice bath voucher to recover? And I sent it and he was like, oh, thank you so much. And it made me feel good, even though I'm not a gifts guy, because I'm like, I'm making somebody feel better.
mm,
And that's probably the power of gifts in a relationship is the thought behind it. And the thought behind it isn't the value of the money of the gift. It's through my busy day, I've made time to consider you.
yeah.
You have been considered important. To make something important is to import it into your consciousness. So
Mm,
now I've chosen to get my wife flowers, even though I'm busy and growing the business. I've taken time out of my day to get her something that means something to her. And
yeah.
that, my friends, is how you give gifts. It's not about the money, it's about the thought behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Final love language, and we'll clear this bad boy up, is physical touch.
Mm,
Very common for very many men.
mm.
If you have testosterone in your blood, which most men do, especially me, I'm on TRT, I'm loving it. An absolute horn dog. Physical touch is anything physical involving touch. So holding hands, kissing, touching skin, spooning. Rosie and I spoon like 3-4 times a week. Sometimes she tells me to get fucked because she wants to sleep, right? But spooning, and then the elephant in the room, sexual intercourse, coitus. What's some other words for sex? Fucking, lovemaking, intimacy, right? So many men are not intimate with their partners. It is fascinating. I know in a previous podcast you've mentioned that you went a very long time without intimacy before the relationship ended, the divorce happened. And we talk to so many guys who have the money, they have the car, they have the house, they might even have the body, and their wife will not bang them. Now get this. I talked to a woman yesterday who messaged me. I talked to her husband in July. She messaged me on Instagram after listening to my podcast. Don't know how she found me. And she said, you talked to my husband 5 months ago and he still needs help. They've started marriage counseling with a 60-year-old woman. Guess how that's going? Right? And this poor woman, I send her an overview of the program, what she gets. I walk her through how much it is. And she's like, I'm keen, but I need to talk to you. So we talk on the phone. We spent 30 minutes together at this point.
Mm.
And she tells me all these things, that he's doing wrong. They're disconnected. She waits right until the end of the convo and says, oh, by the way, he had sex with a prostitute. And my mind just goes, she still wants to fix things and work on it. Imagine the degree of emotional and physical touch disconnection for a man in a marriage where you have committed to that person. You've said, you know what? I am not having sex with anyone else to go and have sex with a prostitute. And this happens all the time. People cheat all the time. It's crazy. So this physical touch one, it's not just intimacy and sex. It is connection.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I'm making love to my wife, I've never been able to have one night stands or anything like that. I think I've slept with like 9, 10 women in my life. Rosie's the last one. And I have to have a deep emotional connection to get joy out of the sex. Most guys don't need that, right? So it's deep connection. I look into her eyes. I feel her. there were periods of my relationship, very many of them, especially in the beginning, when we would argue and be disconnected, and I'd have sex with her, and it was like I was forcing myself on her. She didn't want to be there. It was
Mm,
horrible. Like
mm,
she'd just be lying there, like judging me, and I'm like, ugh. But I still did it because I wanted to, right?
yeah.
And it was this horrible feeling. And so many men have this. They're either not having sex, or they're having sex and it's really forced and how do you describe it? Just not good. You know, it feels
Yeah.
yuck. It feels wrong, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And let alone kissing and hugging and spooning and spending time together. So
Mm.
yeah, what have you observed with the guys we work with for physical touch, and how do we implement this love language effectively?
And I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of men, that we work with that they just want to be reconnected with their partner. They want to have sex again,
Yeah,
and they'll use the word intimacy.
yeah,
Intimacy is
yeah,
not sex. Intimacy, that's part of it,
yeah,
but like it's connection, like you said, and like all the love languages, it's about significance, and
yes,
intimacy is something that's built. And so, those moments that, not all of us, but some men kind of let pass by, like the on the couch with, like right up next to each other with your legs over on another, or like whatever it may be. Like
yeah,
that stuff matters, and that's how you build intimacy. It's not something you just go switch on. Yep, cool. I want it now,
yeah,
because a lot of men are physical, a lot of women are emotional, and it's got to that connection's got to happen, not just like that all the time, but
yeah,
something that's established. And
yeah,
it's for us as men, and I'm generalizing, it's about switching gears in our mind to go, well, how can I build intimacy rather than just a sex session? Like
yeah.
how can I start to rebuild connection, and rebuild that significance in that physical touch way?
Mm. Yeah, and in many ways, not just sexually. And this is where meeting your partner's love language is important. Like most women, unfortunately, but some do, most don't just aren't just okay with you just sticking it in. Like you come home, you had a long day, you're stressed, it gets to 9 p.m., you haven't really talked, you
Mm,
get in bed and you're like, let me put it in. And they're like, no. And you're like, screw you, more resentment. That doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
So even like foreplay, like most people are like, foreplay, why would I do that? Because it's part of loving, it's part of giving,
yeah,
you know? And one thing Rosie and I do on the couch at the moment, when I go and have lunch for a half an hour and go for my walk, like she'll sit on the couch, I'll sit on the couch, and we'll be right next to each other. And my arm will be around her while I'm eating on the couch, because we eat on the couch. And we're constantly in this level of connection physically. If you think about the word connection, two things have to be connected, right? You cannot have electricity run through a wire if there's a disconnection. And for
mm,
there to be electricity in your relationship, there has to be some form of connection.
yeah,
Now, connection in a relationship isn't just physical, it's emotional.
mm,
Most men are physical. Hand job, blow job, sex. Awesome. Some guys are like, what is that? Never got it. Then you have emotional, which is most women. This is just generalizing. Feminine is emotional, masculine is physical most of the time. So for them to give you that physical love and that sex and that connection, a lot of the time they need emotional connection.
mm,
They need that quality time with you to feel the warmth and connection.
yeah,
They want those acts of service, helping around the house and with the kids. And
mm,
if you can step up as a man and meet their needs, speak their love languages, which we've covered in this podcast, it's very unlikely that they don't start to feel a connection to you. It's very unlikely that they don't start to touch you and give you what you desire, especially if you are consistent with the way you show up for them. But it requires, as a man, to step up and lead. It's
mm,
always the answer. Sure, they have a role to play. Sure, if your needs aren't getting met, that's not fun. They have a role to play, but you got to meet their needs first.
mm,
And so often I see this with the guys we work with and with me. When you meet their needs, you get what you want. But you don't do it to get what you want. You do it because you care and you want to show love.
yeah,
And this is what I bring up with Rosie. Last week, she knows how open I am. You know how open I am. Last week we had sex 3 times. It's typically like 1 to 2 times a week, which is amazing for me. Like one a week is good. I'm happy with that because it's electric sex, it's connected, and
mm,
also having a kid that changes things. But last week we had it 3 times, and we're on like our third week of real deep connection. She's giving me words of affirmation. I'm giving her quality time. I'm constantly giving her acts of service. And the third time, it was great. She came downstairs, 5 in the morning, about to go for my walk. we have a garage, we got neighbors, like there's a window, it's 5 a.m, and we ended up having sex in the garage on the couch. And I was just like, this is amazing. Halfway through, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a porno. Like, this is great. And it was just phenomenal. And then we finished, I went for a walk, did my morning routine, did my breath work. I'm like, I have the best life ever. I honestly have the best life ever. I have the best wife, the best life. But the reason I'm sharing that is not to brag about sex. The reason I'm sharing it is because there were many moments where that didn't exist. Physical touch is extremely important to me. I have needs. I have desires. I'm a man. I'm full of testosterone. But I don't expect it from her anymore. And if she's not giving it, I instantly know that she's feeling unloved. She's feeling unloved, unappreciated, unsupported. I know that for a fact. So now there's no resentment. It's almost like I turn the mirror on myself and I'm like, cool, I haven't had sex with my wife in 2 weeks. What am I doing wrong? How can I meet her needs? And I'll ask her that and I'll give her that. And then without fail, I don't need to ask for it. It just happens. I'll touch her butt. She doesn't mind. If I touch her butt and she's upset, she's not feeling loved. It's very obvious when you look at it like that, right? Very obvious. So we've gone a little bit over time, but that's okay. There are these 5 love languages, right? So there are acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, and physical touch. Little exercise for you to do at home if you are listening. I want you to write down your number 1 love language. So what is the love language in your life that you get the most value out of? Okay. By the way, in our 7-day challenge, day 6 has an exercise that walks you through all of this. So if you'd like to know more about that, there'll be a link down below. But what's your number 1 love language? What's the number 1 thing you want from your partner? Once you got the number 1, what's the second thing after that? Then what I want you to do is I want you to do the exact same for your partner. What's the number 1 thing that you could do for them? Acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, or physical touch. What's the second thing? And then I want you to have a conversation with them. This is hard to do if you've got relationship issues, and say, hey, I was thinking about it. If I think that these are the 2 things that you need from me, am I correct? And then once they give you the answer, say, cool, this is what I'm committed to doing for you. Is that okay with you? And then you can say, is it okay if I share with you what I would like from you? But you always lead. You don't ask for what you want. You don't tell them what you want unless you first ask for what they want. That's the way relationships work, right? So that's the exercise I want you guys to do. Anything you want to add to that, Sam?
Without awareness, we will naturally love others in the way that we feel loved. And often in relationships, when we do that, we become like ships passing in the night. All of our kind gestures and stuff, they just fall flat. Relationships are places that we don't go to get, we go to give. And then the natural byproduct of that is our needs being met as well, like you said. Love languages are like, they're the pathway to deeper connection. And it's something that it takes time to build, it takes consistency, and it's something that we gladly get to invest our time, our energy, and our attention into.
Yeah, I love that. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that, my friends, is one of the ways you can communicate using the 5 love languages. So if you're not feeling loved, guess what? They're not meeting your love languages. And if they're not feeling loved, guess what? Their love languages aren't met. And all you got to do is find one of these and start doing more of it and make that a habit. And over time, it will begin to change. Hope that helps. If you got value from this, make sure you give it a thumbs up on YouTube or 5 stars, wherever you're listening. Feel free to drop a comment and share your thoughts with us on this, how it's implemented in your life. And we'll see you for the next episode of the Empowered Man podcast. Hey, brother, I hope you got a ton of value from that podcast. If you would like to work with us personally and get some of the best content we've launched for our clients who invested thousands of dollars, then go and complete our 7-day Empowered Man Challenge. This mission will completely transform your life. If it doesn't, you won't have to pay a cent. It's only $37, and it is game-changing if you want to take back control. So if you want to find balance between business, family, and life, if you want the relationship, the health, the wealth that you deserve, then go to elitebusinessman.com/challenge. That's elitebusinessman.com/challenge and take up this challenge to take back control of your life.